worked at Zomato. I set up their mental wellness team. MindPeers came to me around 2020 when the world was shutting down. Decided to do that, and that's what my current position is. But if you look at things, I've worked with children, I've worked with adults, I've worked in clinic settings, corporate settings, private practice is something that goes on um, purely from a clinical degree. The reason that I need you to understand is that exploration is very important. Very early in your career, you will tend to get stagnated to say that I'm a counseling psychologist, I will take therapies. Or I'm an organizational psychologist, I will make policies. You need to have that exploration. And that exploration starts right at your master's. It's a lot of it is based on our comfort zone, right? I know how to take therapy. I can close my eyes and I can take therapy. I'm likely to do that. So every 6 to 8 months, find out one area that's outside your comfort zone. Like currently, what is outside my comfort zone is digital therapeutics. I don't understand how AI and mental health work, which is why I'm choosing to expose myself in that. 2 years ago, what was outside my comfort zone was how the gut brain axis works. So you spend a lot of time working on it. You identify what your niche is. So my niche, for example, was therapy. And then I discovered that my niche is human interaction. That's why therapy is a niche. So you always draw back. That is going to be your comfort zone. That is going to be what you're going to pivot your career around. So what you don't pivot your career around a profession or a job. You pivot your career around, can I please see some faces, folks? You pivot your career around a skill. My skill is human intervention. Your skill can be strategy. Your skill can be policy implementation. Your skill can be facilitation or public speaking. And you build from there. So you have your skill, which becomes your comfort zone. After that, it becomes what is the most convenient profession that I can go to. For most of us who do psychology, it becomes therapy. So that's one thing. While you do that and while you build yourself as a psychologist, also make sure you're building yourself in other areas. Even if it's something as simple as I want to do workshop facilitation. When you decide to do workshop facilitation, you will learn things like content creation, what the buzzwords are, how do you do it, how do you plan a deck, right? When you plan a deck, you learn a lot of Canva. You also learn brand building. You and you take that skill and say that this is something I can take to corporates. Can I pitch to corporates when I'm a fresher to say you need a mental wellness team? No, difficult. But can you pitch to corporates to say that these are decks that I work on, and I would love to host a facilitation session for you? Absolutely. So when you and careers or career trajectory changes every 3 to 4 years, it changes if you allow it to change. But for you to be able to allow it to change, you need to have some expertise backing it. Dabble as much as you can at as many places as you can. I don't know why thumbs ups are going up. I think there's something going on in the chat. But dabble as much as you can. That's very, very important. Um, to be now, let's get to a very critical point. How do you dabble? Sure, Arushi came and said, do 10 things. How do you do 10 things without networking? Networking is important. I guarantee you, your 30 people on this call, um, in the next 3 years, 30 people will be doing different things. Maybe 10 of you will do therapy, but 20 of you will decide to do mental health in a very, very different trajectory. You may not be friends with each other, and that's fine. Networking is not about making friends. Networking is more transactional in nature, to say, buddy, this is what I bring to the table. What do you bring to the table? How can we explore each other's networks? Networking is important. Network with seniors, um, network with LinkedIn people, to say that this is exactly what I want. Now, if anybody sends me a LinkedIn message today and says, "Hi Arshi, I would love to get on a call and a chat," I would love to respond. I don't have the time to respond. So I will not respond to that. But if someone reaches out to me to say, "Hi Arshi, I'm specifically looking to say to grow X skills as a therapist, would like to get in touch, or can you tell me where to go?" I'm likely to respond to that, because it's a small time investment on my end, right? But I know it's critical information and it's easier to give it out. So how you network is very important. If you, some of you will come and tell me, "We have sent 300 cold emails and 500 LinkedIn requests and nothing is coming out of that," because how are we positioning ourselves? How you position yourselves is very, very important. How many of you know that psychologists are compulsorily required in the aviation industry? Raise your hands, unmute, do whatever. It's an interactive session. I don't want to keep talking myself. One person. Who else? How many? One? That's it? So the DGCA, which is the air regulatory, last year took out a circular that said psychologists are necessary in the aviation industry. If you look at a psychologist called Kamya Bihari, she's working with Air India. If you look at, I'm forgetting her name, but her name is from S. She works with Indigo. Akasa doesn't have it, but Akasa is not a conversation that we're having right now. Those are avenues that you need to explore, which means that you need to do a whole lot of literally LinkedIn scouting on what psychologists are doing. So I am the chief psychology officer for MindPeers, right? A role that was not very heard of. You have platforms like Amaha, which have lead supervisors. Supervisor is a role that's coming up, which will take you a couple of years to reach there. You learn that which are the corporates that are hiring for psychologists, which are the platforms that are hiring psychologists, which are listing platforms that allow you to have your private practice. The first step of anything is that the first step of anything in building a career is identifying what you want to do. And that identification in mental health is not easy. So, what roles? What are possible avenues? Do you want to work in the rural setup? Do you want to work in the urban setup? Do you want to work in legislation, legislative building? Do you want to work in rehabilitation centers? Do you want to work in corporates? Do you want to work in policy? Do you want to work in academic design? Do you want to work um, in textbook frameworks of how mental health has to be taught at levels? Do you want to work in schools? Do you want to work in clinics? Do you want to work in um, do you want to work in super specialized centers, whether it's psycho-oncology or it's grief? Do you want to work in the aviation industry now? Where you want, or digital therapeutics? Digital therapeutics and data analysis is a field that's really, really coming up. Your first thing is, what do I want to do? And to get to what do I want to do, you need to know what you don't want to do. How many of us here know what they don't want to do? And whoever knows, tell me, what is something that you're like, I will never do in mental health?
I would request everyone to participate on this event and get clear of all your queries, whatever you have. You can turn on your mic or your camera, and you can ask your queries, ma'am.
And this is an interactive session. So ask me specific questions so I know exactly where to guide you. I'm telling you how to go about it, but I need you to ask me specific questions so that your insights are stronger. Even if you ask me how to build a CV, I'm happy to go through how to build a CV.
So we have one question, ma'am. Uh, one of them is asking that even if one
Yeah,
says
I'm trying
never
to
say or
understand
fail, it might happen
what
that
that question means. Arundhati, can
yeah.
you explain to me what that question means? Because it seems more of a statement. Help me understand that question.
Good evening to everyone. It actually is a statement. I was trying to say that even if we say that I will never do this, it might happen that you have to do that. So it was in reference to, uh, but you were saying na कि, how many of us know that we are never going to do a particular thing in life, or like a field that in psychology that we don't want to ever visit or do or work in. So
Yeah,
in that aspect I was
absolutely.
trying to say.
Absolutely agreed with that. Who is confident on what their career moves are? How many of us are confident? So, about what your next about your career moves. What are you going to do once you graduate? Love that. And what is it, Nandini, if I may ask you, that you are looking to do? And what does that career in clinical psychology look like? Where will you practice clinical psychology? Okay, love that. Nandini, I'm going to use you as an example. Is that okay? Folks, that's a lot of clarity of what I'm talking about. So we know we want to work in a hospital setting. What does it take to work in a hospital setting? Do we need to be a counseling psychologist or a clinical psychologist? Do we need to have an RCI license? Do we need to be an arts-based practitioner? Um, what do our hours look like? What do our days look like? What does pay look like? That's clarity. That's very important for you to have. Otherwise, it feels quite um, it feels quite disillusioning at the end of the day. Okay, so you know what your end goal is, but what are the facets to the end goal? How is a hospital going to hire you? Does that mean that I need to intern with one hospital again and again to build my network there, or do I need to work with different psychiatrists in a particular geographical span to build network and then apply? That's a little bit of clarity that one should have. Janisha said it would be great if we could also add where to apply or get us enrolled as a fresher. It's difficult to find out the right place, and I feel like there aren't enough spaces who accept freshers. Yeah. So, Janisha, the easiest transition is always where you have interned as a master's student to start getting absorbed in that ecosystem. Bachelor's internships are important, but they're not foundational. Master's internships become very, very foundational. So it is literally about, it literally becomes, these are the three places where I want to work. I will intern there. And if I intern as a copywriter, I intern as a social media person, I intern as a workshop facilitator, I intern as customer support. You build yourself in their ecosystem so that when you're done with the degree, you know that it's internal absorption. Internal absorption is the easiest. The second thing is find out places that allow you to list yourselves. So when I say list yourselves, listing becomes, for example, MindPeers, right? MindPeers does listing of therapists. MindPeers, so we run a program, I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, called Therapeers, which is essentially a networking and upskilling program. And the entire, one of the biggest purposes of Therapeers was to train and hire. So we train you, we see what your participation looks like, and then we hire, then we absorb you again, absorbing into the ecosystem. You have platforms like Kaha Mind, platforms like Amaha, platforms of Rocket Health, etc., that do the same thing. Or you have private practice. What it does is it allows you to build X number of hours. Today, if you come to me, you'll be like, I have 0 therapy hours. But if you list yourself on these platforms and you come and tell me I have 100 therapy hours or I have 50 therapy hours, makes a difference. Makes a difference even in how you present yourself. So the gap between transitioning from a fresher to this is literally about getting your first 50-100 hours in. Um, Ruth, yes. So most colleges do introduce you to internships. The other area is you divide them in buckets. So you have hospital internships, Max, Artemis, Delhi NCR I'm talking, Max, Artemis, and Fortis. Fortis countrywide does a lot of clinical internships. Then you have organizational internships. So there is, I know Wipro, and I can't remember two other places. What is Wipro and Accenture do Wipro, Accenture and Viacom 18 do a lot of human resource versus wellness internships. So you can look at if you want to get corporate exposure. Then you look at smaller clinics around you geographically and go to them and say that I am in this phase of my education, this is what I want to learn, this is what I can offer right now, I would like to do an internship. So that covers your clinic internships. Then you have school internships, which is a lot of shadow work. All schools don't allow internships, so just see where you want to go or which school around you has it. But um, a lot of shadow work. So you will constantly be shadowing the special ed teacher or the language acquisition therapist or the OT, but it gives you a lot of exposure into how admin and stuff works. So just bucket them in 4-5 areas and then decide where do you want to seek your internships. But college should have a placement network. Yes, Dishari.
Hello, ma'am. A very good evening to you. I have two questions.
Yeah.
One is a situation where there are many of us who are enthusiastic about clinical field and joining that field. field. But many of us, I think, fail to understand at the beginning of our journey that we might not have an aptitude for this field. Like, in respect, like, even if we are doing internships, we might like it in the initial phase, but doing an internship and being recruited as a clinical internship are different things, right? To some extent, like, doing that work for a continuous period of time, sometimes there are many people, professionals, who drop out from their field and then maybe they go to academic. So how do we get that clarity to some extent so that we don't make much mistake in that field? This is one question, and if you would like to go with that, then I'll ask my second question, I think.
Um, have conversations with people who are in the profession, which is to say, what do you not like about the work that you do? So, if you ask me today, what do I not like about therapy? I can tell you I don't like the administrative bit. I do not sometimes like the networking bit or the 50, 500 WhatsApps one has to reply to. I find drawing boundaries and trying to explain boundaries to clients again and again very draining. When new cycle of client starts, you have to start the whole pay before you come for therapy procedure again, and no matter how many years you're in it, it gets draining. What do I not like about running the business side of things, whether it's administrative, whether it's just being able to hold space, whether it's hand holding therapists, whether it's people not realizing the potential intensity, multiple things. So have very honest conversations with stakeholders around you to say that, listen, what is something that you don't enjoy, and that will bridge that gap between idealistic and realistic careers.
And my second part is, yes, that is like, in the field of special education, children do need therapists as well. So
Yeah.
I am not aware of how do we get there. Could you please enlighten me there?
Okay, so you have specialized courses for special education. You can do that. You can do these days. I think it's compulsory for schools to have a psychologist. So you can also start there and then decide what aspect of special education do you want to specialize in. Do you want to do IEP building, which is individualized education plans? Do you want to do language acquisition? Do you want to do classroom modalities? Do you want to do speech therapy? Do you want to do organizational building? So I would suggest go to a school, ask them what a day looks like for someone who's working with special needs children, because there are like 10, 12 professionals who work with the same student. What does early intervention look like? There is a wonderful person called Birinder Kalra who does early intervention programs. She's fantastic with her knowledge of identifying special children with special needs very early on and building their functional skills. So that's a person that you can network with. Ask what are the courses to do, look forward to.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. And ma'am, what if I would love to work with their parents?
Yeah.
So yeah, because I think there are many parts where the parents are unaware of, may it be a prodigy kid or a retarded kid, whatever, in
We
whatsoever
don't use
field.
the word retarded.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry for that.
Just telling you, no problem. That's okay. We all make those mistakes. So you can definitely work if you want to work as in the caregiver or in the support system ecosystem. You can work there. The first thing that you will still have to do, Dishari, is work with children with special needs so that you know how to recommend things to the parents. So your if I don't understand anxiety, how do I tell you what anxiety is? If I've never visualized a panic attack or seen a panic attack, how do I de escalate that? I can't. So you have to work with children with special needs or do at least observerships so that you understand that and then can become the bridge between the parent and the child.
Sure, ma'am.
You're
Thank you
also,
so much.
if you want to go in that direction, what you're looking at is positive parenting.
Yes. Yeah.
So do that.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you
Wow.
so much.
Okay, ma'am. So we have one more question from Bruce Singh. He has asked that as a bachelor student, what should I do to build a better career in psychology?
Ruth, read. No joke, read. And read not just psychology, but read mental health. There's a little bit of difference between psychology and mental health, right? Mental health is the more functional aspect of things. And I strongly suggest to read a lot of mental health. Um, that tells you what research is. So are we right now studying about how grief therapy is completely changing post the pandemic? These are trends that you need to be aware of. Trends is something you can be aware of either by doing a lot of either by scouring Google Scholar and seeing these are the latest papers that are coming up. So this is where the world is moving towards. LinkedIn networking is something that we've covered, or yeah, go to Google Scholar actually. Every 6 months, go to Google Scholar and see these are 5, 6 things that are coming up. Psychology Today also does a lot of newsletters. Look into it. In what direction are they moving? The minute they're moving in some direction, you should be moving in that direction.
So Arundhati want to ask something. You can go.
Yes, around your thing.
Yeah. So, ma'am, I wished to ask that since you have expertise in expressive art therapy, what degree or like what I mean to say that I'm also interested in that, but I don't know how to explore that field, as in like what workshops to do or any course or something that would give me a better exposure to that field. Yes, ma'am. So I wished to know how can we approach that field in like I've done my masters. So how how to go about it?
Okay, so do one thing. Um, Go to someone who does art therapy and take a session as a client. See if you actually like that process. Because I know art therapy sounds like, oh my god, it's going to be a lot of fun, it's going to be colors and drawing, and we're going to do this. It it starts off like that, no joke, but it becomes a little more difficult and a little more complex. So see if that's a process that you truly do enjoy. Once you have decided that okay, fine, this looks like something I want to do, YouTube. I don't say this lightly, folks, but anything and everything is available on YouTube. So see YouTube, look at what theories they go into. Do you like neuroscience? Because you cannot do art therapy without neuroscience. So if you were the kid who ran away from physiology in your bachelor's, you're going to have to go back and brush up on those books. Once all of that exposure is done, right, which doesn't take a lot of financial investment, there's a course by UNICEF, which is the one of the only accredited art therapy courses that has a lot of partners. I think UNICEF now partners with Fortis, if I'm not wrong, to for their art therapy course. You'll have to check. I'm not too sure on that, but I think they partner with Fortis and do that course. Then doing that course is to say that I'm an art, thanks Rithi, I'm an art certified art therapy practitioner or an expressive arts practitioner. And that financial investment that you do is so that you can charge 3x the cost that you were charging in your therapy. So that's how you get your returns back.
So, ma'am, like online courses will be better, or something that you can go and do physically there, because in my city there are not many opportunities in this particular field. So that is why I was concerned on what to do and where to approach.
Arundhati, art therapy is not something I recommend doing online and multiple workshops, because workshops can't teach you art therapy, which is why I'm saying online. Do a lot of exposure for yourself to say that acha, this is what art therapy is. Then if you're doing it now, do it offline.
Yeah. So, are there any institutes offering a particular course related to apart from UNICEF? Is it like a long-term course, like 1 year kind of, or like a short-term course?
It depends. So
Basically.
sometimes I give you a 3 month intensive one. Sometimes I give you 6 months. Sometimes I give you a year. Even in the 1 year course that they do, no Arundhati, what they do sometimes is that they will tell you 80% or 70% of the module is online, and then there are weeks or days where they call you offline. So see if you can just fly down, because you want to be accredited, right?
Yes,
Tomorrow
definitely.
if I come to you as a client and you tell me, yeah, I've done art therapy from a workshop, it's a huge modality for me to take seriously. I would want you to have some accreditation. That's how you're going to get your revenue back.
I understand. Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. It cleared a lot of my doubts.
Any
Okay. So we have next question from Anjali. He has asked that as a student of grade 11, what exposures should I be exposed to, or how do I explore in the field more?
grade 11, Anjali, I don't know if they will let you do a lot of internships, but you can do a lot of observerships in small clinics. So a lot of clinical observership there, where you go and tell a psychologist, I just want to see how you work, or I want to do a little bit of content for you. That content allows you to become familiar with the field of psychology, because if you do content for me, I'll tell you, okay, tell me 5 facts about imposter syndrome. Allows you to read on imposter syndrome, understand what the common trends are. So your Psychology Today is a website that I have mentioned. Read there. Don't get into reading books. Don't get into reading articles and scholars right now. Grade 11, 12 is not the time. You want to do things that get you very quick inputs. So observerships. I'm sitting with a psychologist. I suddenly know what an intake form looks like, or what homework resources look like. I'm doing content for them, or I'm doing copywriting for them. I understand what are the words to be used, what are the words to be avoided. I'm looking at websites like Psychology Today. It's allowing me to pick the headlines, know what the important things are, and move on. So very quick insights is something that you should do. Sorry folks, can you give me a
Okay, ma'am.
second please?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, okay, Anjali. What extent online are taken
Okay.
into work fields? Dishari, anything that you do which has a human value, mm, anything that you do which has a human value or has human um, response is taken into consideration. So even if you work with NGOs that allow you to have human interaction and say that um, I worked with children and I worked with children with physical disabilities, but it helped me improve communication, it helped me build empathy, anything that you can derive a skill from is valued. So let's go back to the first point that we discussed, right? How do we find our niche? We don't find our niche via profession, we find our niche via our skill set. My skill set was human interaction. That's what you do in internships. In internships, whatever you do, you have to go back and extricate 5 skills and say, how are these 5 skills something that will help me? The minute you do that, it's going to be helpful.
Okay, ma'am. So
You should
this
start doing
friend has asked that.
internships. You should start doing internships as soon as you can start. So in 11th, don't do internships. Please enjoy your school life. 12th, start doing a little bit of observerships. So 12th, First year, second year is observerships. Third year of bachelor's onwards, you should start doing internships. All right, we'll take one last question, folks, and then we'll close for today.
Okay, ma'am. So I have one question.
Yeah.
That how should we start our private setup? If we want to start a private setup, like to be a counselor, then how should we start?
Everything that we said in the beginning about networking, internships, getting in touch with psychiatrists, that's something that you do so that you know you can. And that's something that you do so that you can bring back client inflow. Client inflow is very, very important. Janisha, a lot of organizational careers are I'm a little thrown off by the next question, but that's the last question I'm taking. So, a lot of organizational careers look into policy design, what can be done to make workplaces, inclusive workplaces, safe, go into team development, go into workspace wellness, um, go into policy design. So, if you know people who are in the field of law, that's going to be a very helpful network to say when you're designing policies. Do you include mental wellness? Is wherever you're working, is there a place that I can pivot myself? Ruth, yes, overall, I'm very happy with the trajectory that my career has taken. That's not to say that I don't have good days and bad days. I have some days where I'm extremely satisfied, and some days where I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Can't wait to get to the next thing. But that is there with every single field that you take. So I've had all of those moments in my life. Yeah, overall quite satisfied.
Yeah. So, ma'am, Foley want to ask something.
For,
Thank you.
Call me very quickly, but that is literally the last question that I'm taking, and then I'm gonna hand over to Annie.
Um, okay, thank you, ma'am. Good evening, first of all. I just wanted to ask that there are some hospitals who just giving observationship as a certificate, and they are like all the interns do what an intern do, and they're like short period of time. If I am doing an internship for 1 month, they are giving observationship, and there are some hospitals also giving observationship for if you are doing for 2 months or 3 months, as many months you want. So is this certificate will eligible as in my CV if I given to someone, because I have the
Absolutely.
experience
Always put
of
your
as a
observerships. Always put your observerships, and what all have you learned from your observership? So 1122 lines. Folks, when you're doing CV building now, in your internships and observerships, don't write 20 lines. Just write 2, 3 lines. Learn this, learn this, learn this. Very, very quick. But put your
okay.
observation.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, and thank you so much, everybody. I hope it gets easier. All the best. I
Okay.
can't wait to see what all
Yeah.
of you do. Annie, here.
Hi, Arushi. Thanks for the session. Hi, everyone. Is Radhika here? Hi, Radhika, if in case you're here.
Radhika's
Um,
not here. Arpita's facilitating, moderating for us.
okay, hi, Arpita.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, guys. So I hope all of you learned a lot from Arushi's insight. She has more than 10 years plus experience as a psychologist and being the head of MindPeers. She manages psychologists, literally 400 psychologists on a daily basis. So the amount of information you can get from her is endless. On side note, if you feel like you want to connect with her more and connect with mind peers more, we have a community which is aimed to helping therapists, especially upcoming therapists like all of you, and the community is called as therapiers. In this particular community you will be able to network with fellow mental health professionals. You will be able to take different courses. I heard someone here said about art therapy, right? So we have art therapy courses coming up. We have trauma informed therapy. So basically different type of therapeutic modalities you will be able to learn in this particular therapiers community. Additionally, you'll get supervisions and mentorship from Arushi herself. And also you'll get a lot of guidance and possible opportunities of internships and hiring at MindPeers as well. So I've put the link of this particular community in the chat box. It's called Therapiers, just repeating it for everyone. And I've put a contact number, which is my personal contact number, that you can, DM me in case you want any more details on it. And happy to help you out and happy to support you wherever we can as an organization to build great psychologists in India. All right. So, on that note, thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining the session. And do check out the chat box for details. I put the link and the number. And all the very best to all of you.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for your support and help. We are very blessed to have you. And before we conclude, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our esteemed speaker from MindPeers for sharing their invaluable expertise and insight with us today. Your wisdom has undoubtedly set light on the path to success in the field of the psychology, inspiring us all to strive from excellence. Thank you once again to our speaker and to all of you for your time for participation. Let's
Amazing.
continue to explore, learn, and grow together. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thanks. Acha,